I'm an aim coach and I started playing Marvel Rivals, and in 6 days after playing, I hit Grandmaster, and now I'm on my way up to Eternity. Here are some of the results for some of my students that I've coached, and let's get right into the routine. Now, I know a lot of people don't want to practice their aim on separate programs. A lot of people don't believe it actually helps, and they often say you should just play the game. So, I'm giving everyone an option that just wants to play the game to aim train in the practice range. Now, first, if you don't know where I am right now, here's how you get there. Come out of spawn, you head down these stairs right over here. Now, no one actually uses stairs, so you can just jump. And then, once you head down here, you head down this hole, and you see all this. Now, before you start, you want to click Escape, you want to go to Practice Settings, and you want to turn on No Ability Cooldown. With these on, you're going to choose certain characters depending on what you want to train. If you want to train your clicking or click timing on a hit scan hero, you want to play Black Widow, which I'll explain later. Now, an example of clicking hit scan heroes are Hela, Black Widow, and Adam Warlock. There might be a few more, but I can't remember right now. Now, all these heroes are about click timing. You get one shot, it hits as soon as you click it, so if your crosshair's on, it will hit the target. Now, there's another type of character, which are projectile heroes. For projectile heroes, it doesn't matter who you play. I would recommend you play the one that you're trying to practice on. For example, Namor. And projectile clicking heroes are the heroes that you see their projectile fly through the air, or after you click, it takes a second for it to actually hit the enemy. And then there's tracking heroes. For tracking heroes, some examples are Punisher or Iron Man's right click. You also track on heroes like Star-Lord, but it's harder to practice your aim with Star-Lord's guns from certain ranges, so I would just stick to Punisher or Iron Man. Now, into the routines. First, if you guys just want to know what's the routine, let me do it, leave me alone. I have to warn you, I'm gonna give it to you, but there is a certain way to do it, and some of these mistakes are something that a lot of my students make, and after we fix them is how they saw such massive improvements in their aim and overall how their aim felt. But I can't stop you. So first, here you go. These are the settings, let me explain. Now you can change the character based on what you want to train. If you want to train hitting targets in the air, put the targets on Iron Man. If you want to practice hitting characters on the ground, put it on Luna Snow. Now, Iron Man, self-explanatory. He's tricky when he moves around, he's hard to hit, and he's in the air. Now, Luna Snow might need a little more explaining. But before we go into it, let me explain everything else. Distance, random, for obvious reasons. You don't want to be able to expect what you're practicing. Now, for mid-range, if you're newer and you're not ready to handle mid-range right away, start at short range, work up to mid, then work up to long. You can think of this as a difficulty slider, along with movement speed, which I have on super fast, but if you're newer or if you're just trying to learn the basic, I would start with normal. Movement action, random, and for timer, one important thing about timer is you can change this based on what you're looking to do. If you're trying to set scores and try to practice and see, okay, how did I do this week? How did I do that week? I would go to 60 seconds and try to kill as many bots as possible to test your own skill. Now, if you guys do decide to go with the 60-second routine, feel free to leave a comment what your high score is with what character and what settings, so you guys can keep track of your scores and progress down in the comments. Or you could join my Discord, send me your score, and maybe I'll try my best to beat it. But if you're just trying to get some practice in before you go play, I turn the timer off and just play like that. And music, I mean, that's preference. Now, why do we use Luna Snow? Let me show you. If you see the way she moves, you see how she starts to ice skate randomly? Now, if she ice skates and jumps, you see how high she just went. That's why we do Luna Snow, because it's so random. She might be moving faster left 1 second, faster right another second. In general, her movement's completely random, so you have to actively aim the whole time. Too many people, when they practice such easy stuff, and they don't actually train anything, because they're just like, oh, well, it moves at this speed, let me just autopilot and aim. But with Luna Snow, it forces you to actively aim the whole time. Now, for Punisher, whenever I do tracking practice, I use his grapples to go on the left and right side. So I'll go up here and I'll go up there and I'll practice. And I'll sit here and track the targets as much as I can. You can also, if you want to practice a clicking hero, you can just switch to the character up here and you'll get great practice in from a different angle. Now, when you're doing your tracking routines, there's a certain way you have to play. And let me show you an example right here. When a lot of people track, they treat every direction change and every movement like its own movement. And what do I mean by that? If you see a target moving like this, right, through the air, a lot of people, instead of aiming just like that, they'll aim like this. Now, the problem with this is you're over-aiming, and something like this is why whenever you try to track somebody, it feels like you just can't control your aim, because you're overcorrecting, making it much harder than it actually is. So your goal is, when you're tracking, you want to try to waste as little movement as possible, so eventually when you track, it looks like one smooth motion. Another example of this is left to right movement. And this is something that almost all of my students have had a problem with. And as soon as we fixed it, their aim felt completely different. They felt a lot more consistent, and overall their in-game aim was much better. Now, what people do is when they track something like this, constantly changing the speed at which they're aiming. But when you're playing video games, most characters have one set strafe speed. So your tracking should look something like this instead. One speed the whole time. But instead, most people look like this. So when you're training, you want to try and follow the target in one motion. Also, when you're training, you want to only focus one target. You don't want to just switch between them because you can. So here's an example of it. You want to follow it like this. Now, unfortunately, I don't know if you guys know how to, but I couldn't figure it out. If you can, turn off enemy health bars. It's much better practice because you're only going off of the hit markers that you see, and it's less visual clutter because if you accidentally hit another target, you're just going to see a ton of health bars, and that's not as good practice, you know what I mean? For clicking hit scan practice, the reason why I say only play Black Widow is because of this mechanic right here. Do you see how she reloads after every single shot? This will force you to actually aim after every single shot. Most people, when they're aim training or practicing, they're just, click as fast as possible. And you don't get good training like that. You're just training off luck, essentially. So this character will force you to have better technique. Now, speaking of technique, the technique for clicking is you don't want to just track them the whole time and try to get a guaranteed shot, but you also don't want to just put your crosshair in one spot and waiting for them to walk into it. You want to almost track them for a second and click, kind of like this. And then finally, for projectile heroes, just play them. That's all. You want to aim after every single shot. You want to actually pay attention. You want to play it the same you did the clicking hit scan, but just learning how to lead your shots and learning how much drop the bullets have and everything like that. The thing is, especially projectile heroes, if you master them, almost all of them are the strongest in the game. Namor, extremely powerful. Hawkeye, extremely powerful. And the reason why they're projectile heroes is because of a balancing decision. If they were hit scan and every time you shot it instantly hit them, they would be unstoppable. They would be the best characters in the game, 100%. Imagine Hawkeye if you could just click on someone's heads once and they instantly died. It'd be impossible to win. And then once you're more advanced, you can start weaving in movement, strafing, everything like that, so you can really hone in your skills in-game. Now, one thing is you don't want to strafe like this. Too many people do long strafes, and it's super easy, and it makes you super easy to track for the enemy. I sometimes do circular strafes. Sometimes I do long, short, long, just to really throw people off, because whenever I switch directions, they think I'm going to keep going in that direction for a while, and they can't quickly react to the quick change I make. Now, most of my strafing is done kind of like this, but just mess with it. Switch it up. Try to experiment with what you can do and how well you can aim while strafing. And remember to give your squids aim training too. Yeah. You'll be able to aim like this by the end of this routine. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, maybe you should check this one out with 34 minutes of brutally honest Marvel Rivals advice. Check it out. Have a good one, everyone. God bless you. Yeah. Greatest game ever made. Yeah.